Hey everyone, Alex Brandy here, New England Patriots cheerleader, and you're listening to Boston's Big Three podcast presented by Ride the Wave Media.
Welcome to Boston's Big Three, episode 81. I'm joined by the one and only Spike King and then myself, Brandon Watabe. We are following up on the Patriots' big upset at home over the Baltimore Ravens. Babs, how we doing today?
Yeah, it's a big upset. I mean, the Ravens were favored 7.5 points this game. And feeling great. Like, that's a huge W. Like, it's got to feel good as a Patriots fan because you're coming off the Jets game last week. And that was fun doing what we did last week. We were calling the end of the game.
Right.
We were in shock because we went from we're in tank mode, we're getting Trevor Lawrence, to winning that game on a field goal, to now beating the Baltimore Ravens, the 6-2 Baltimore Ravens. And now saying, wow, this team's won 2 in a row, and this team now has a legitimate shot to go on a run.
Yeah.
The next couple games, which we'll get into. But
look at the schedule; it looks pretty favorable for him. So before we move on to the future, let's definitely dive into what stood out in this game. It was a standout performance. I mean, last week we got to see the breakout performance for Jacoby Myers. I feel like today we had the coming out party for Damian Harris out of Alabama in the backfield. Tell me what you thought about Damian Harris.
I mean, that guy puts his nose to the ground and pound, and it's just funny because there was some hype around him last year, and some are saying, well, why did they hold him out? Well, it's the same way of like, why did they hold Jacoby Myers down last year? Why do they hold some of these rookies down the year prior? That's just Bill Belichick. He likes to wait, learn the system, and earn your spot. Damian Harris eclipsed 100 yards today, rushing yards, and it feels good because Damian Harris missed the first couple games of the season. You knew he got active. James White, again, I'll keep preaching it. He's an unrestricted free agent. This guy's going to be your future. He's your future James White. He's your future every down back, it looks like, as long as you can pick up these other guys like Rex Burkhead. Shout out to him, too.
Yeah.
Great game by Rex Burkhead. When you have these other, it's, again, a team effort, but Damian Harris looked great. And what's also good, too, to help out Damian Harris is Cam Newton, because the way that he does the delayed handoffs, you don't know who's going to get the ball. So sometimes it does benefit Damian Harris. But this was the perfect game to do it. Fucking torrential downpours in New England, and he played great. Damian Harris, and again, Jacoby Myers. Yeah, he had his coming out party last week. He had another coming out party this week.
Showed his versatility today.
Threw a touchdown today, and it's just a play that the Ravens should have been prepped for, because it's happened to them prior. It's happened to them years ago.
And it seems to it's always a wide receiver in New England. Whenever Baltimore comes to town, New England's in some not torrential downpours, but say like inclement weather, because that's just how New England football is. Usually it's down in January, when the last notable one that you can think of was Julian Edelman to Danny Amendola for the touchdown in the divisional round to finish a comeback. But it is fun. It's a fun time to be a Pats fan again. Like I tweeted out earlier during the game, like I'm enjoying watching this game. It's been a while. I don't think there's been a moment this season where I was like, heck yeah, Patriots football is back, other than probably week 1 against Miami.
I mean, we had a long October. Like,
yeah.
It was just September, you look good the first couple weeks, the first 3 weeks, especially after the Seattle game. You haven't felt this good since the Seattle game.
Exactly.
That Seattle game, even with the loss, you felt like, oh shit, this team has something. So then you hit, and then the Raiders game, they played okay, but then you hit the pause button on the season from there. And we had to wait till now. We had to wait till pretty much the Jets game in somewhat, but to this game to finally be like, this team has it. But it's week 10. Is it too late? Like, that's the thing, that what might benefit them is that they know every single game is a must win. You lose, they're probably out of the playoff picture, especially if you lose sooner rather than later. But it's fun watching them. I will say, for Cam Newton's sake, he still has some mistakes out there. Like, and again, I was just listening to the radio. Jim Murray was talking about it. You were with a quarterback that was precise the last 20 years. So sometimes you're going to nitpick a lot of these things from Cam Newton. You have to still remember, and I have to do it too, that he's coming off an injury, and it's been a while since he's played a full season, and I get that. But, like the pass to Jacoby Myers in the end zone, that was just like underthrown.
Right.
It was wide open.
It just looked like it died like halfway there.
And you could blame the weather. I know I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. And I just hope now, when you're playing in Houston next week in a dome, There can't be any mistakes. You got to look good. And Cam Newton's kind of overdue for that Seattle game where he threw for like 300, 400 yards. He's overdue for a big coming out party. And I know in terms of throwing, I know he's going to do it at some point soon. He's got to do it soon. You're getting the fan base back. People were down and out. I was down and out.
Right.
You were
I was
down.
down.
Down and out.
I don't think any Pats fan would deny, like, yeah, I was head down. I knew the Pats would be back right where they belong. No one was saying that. This team looked terrible the last 3 weeks, but it has been fun. I just want to go back to that Jacoby Myers throw. I did not see that coming. I had no idea. If you don't know, I'm the baseball guy. I'm not diving deep into every single player. I don't know their histories, what positions they played through high school. Did you know that Jacoby Myers was capable of this? I just knew Edelman as that guy.
I didn't know he was a former high school quarterback. And then, of course, when he does that, everyone's like, "Oh, I knew that."
Yeah.
On the radio, they're like, "Oh yeah, we said it like 10 times this week." So no, you didn't. No one knew that.
No one knew this was in the playbook. When Edelman went out, we thought those options were gone.
Yeah, but it's good because some people are saying like you might have found your Edelman replacement.
Right.
Now. You might have found your Julian Edelman. You might have found him because we've talked about it. And now that the Pats are 4-5, like, and I said it that if the Pats were to lose the last 2 games, like, is Edelman even going to come back? He actually is, I believe, eligible to come back next week, which would be pretty huge if they wanted to have a snap count. But I still think Edelman's done after this year. I still think he opts out. I don't see him staying here long term. He doesn't have to. But at least you have someone in Jacoby Myers who can be like, okay, we at least are building our foundation of wide receivers. And with N'Keal Harry's sake, you're hoping that at least has a rest of productive season. And then when you hit free agency next year, you bring another person in here as well, too. And don't forget, the Patriots have had no luck with the tight ends. Like, they just, and it's somewhat their fault. And I'm not even going to actually blame it because let me just go back with the Rob Gronkowski thing. He waited 2 weeks into free agency before he retired, quote unquote. So then all the free agent tight ends were gone. So Bill expected him to come back. So then you were stuck with like Ryan Izzo and Lacoste last year.
Well, Ryan Izzo did have a pretty important catch tonight.
But in the same, but Ryan Izzo is not like their future guy. Listen, and then you had Devin Asasi, and Keane, and now they're both hurt. So it's like it sucks. Like, it's just, you can't do anything about that. But it feels good. You've got to feel good because these young guys, Kyle Duggar, 12 tackles tonight. He was all over the field, zooming everywhere. Like, he was getting everything. You feel good. Uche had a sack
your
tonight.
guy. I was gonna say your guy, Josh Uche, had a great game. I actually heard the broadcaster say his name and say he was doing something important.
Winovich almost had it was like, I forget how many, maybe 5 minutes to go or something, when the Ravens mishandled the snap and like Lamar Jackson had to run back like 20 yards. Winovich dove into Lamar, and that could have been like a helmet to helmet. That could have been
right.
That actually could have set the tone for the game for the Ravens, because they would have ended up taking a negative 20 yards and turned it into a positive 15. And Winovich had a roughing the passer against the Niners that kind of fucked it over. So he got lucky. He got lucky that it didn't get called against him, because the Ravens were searching for it. And even someone like me that watched it, and I'm not against Chase Winovich, I'm just saying, like, hey, you can't put your head down and just dive on the ground like that when he was giving up himself. So, but it's good to see these young players tonight that are doing something. J.C. Jackson, another interception for him. It's
unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
It's like Stephon Gilmore's not even there, and JC stepped up, which makes it even better because Gilmore's going to play at some point this year. And it's going to make it better because same thing all year is like, you're going to eventually have that full squad. You're eventually going to have that full squad back. And it feels like last week and then this week, it's like, all right, they're starting to get it together. And when you go to Houston next week, the Houston team sucks. It took them forever to score 7 points against the Cleveland Browns today. You got to beat up on that team. You have to beat up on the Houston Texans.
To your point on these young players, I do look at it as encouraging going to the future. Like you're talking about Edelman, if in fact he wasn't to come back next year, he is getting up there in years. People forget he's been on this team for upwards of almost 10 years. playing in a slot receiver role that is demanding and can destroy your body over time. Like Edelman, has Edelman ever played a full 16 game schedule? He always seems to be nicked up with something or sitting a game or two before going on a playoff run.
He's must have at least once in his season, once in
Right.
his career. Like he's had to have at least one season. But
This is hopefully this moment right here is just that one time for the season, and then he can come back for the end of the season when the Patriots are really pushing to make it into the wild card games.
Well, now Watabe, like the beginning of the year, like you had to rely on Edelman. Like
Yeah.
that was your guy. And now Cam's starting to get comfortable with Damian Harris. He's starting to get comfortable with Jacoby Myers. He's got to get himself a little bit more comfortable with N'Keal Harry. He's got to use James White a little bit more too. I mean, like what's going on with James White? It's again, the tight end thing's unfortunate, but Cam's starting to get more comfortable. And now you don't want to make excuses, but we'll make the excuses. COVID came. They got fucked with Kansas City game. The Denver game, they only had 2 days to prep for. The Niners game was no excuse, but I'll just chalk it up as the curse of the Jimmy G. You traded me away. I'm coming in here. That's my revenge game. I mean, there's no excuses for the pitiful performance they did, but they turned it around against the Jets a little bit. It's good to see the defense play well against the Ravens tonight too. They held it down when they had to. Again, weather did help them out.
Right.
So it's one of those things that we're excited. 2 wins in a row. Patriots are not losing another game. Let's see how they play against Houston. Let's see if they need to string this together. They beat Houston and you beat Arizona. You have a 4-game win streak. Boom, you're all set. You're going to win the rest of the season.
Right.
So I think these next 2 games are important. They're winnable games, but they're important enough to be like, hey, we got over that little hump these last 2 weeks. We're starting to feel it. Our confidence is there. Our swagger's there. The team is rallying against, again, like we say this every year about the bulletin board material. There's plenty of it this year about Belichick doesn't know how to draft. He doesn't know how to coach anymore. Cam Newton's washed up. N'Keal Harry doesn't have it. This team doesn't have it. This team's too young. There's enough that this team in that locker room can come together as a unit, as one, and figure it out. And I think we've talked about this plenty of times, whether it was with you, Tyler Miller, Joe Stafford, Jay Lassard, about being the locker room leader. Whose team is this? It's not Tom Brady's team anymore. And it's not even Julian Edelman's team. It's Bill Belichick, but it's who's in the players that are putting this together. And we're not there. We don't really know that per se. It could be Cam Newton, but it might not be him. It might be someone like the McCourties. It could be someone like a J.C. Jackson.
Well, that's why it's important to see that these guys are stepping up into their roles. Like you see guys like J.C. Jackson and Jacoby Myers, what they've been able to do the last stretch of games, and you look at them and like, I want to have that guy on my team for the foreseeable future. And you're not going to have to pay them the millions and millions of dollars that guys that are putting the same kind of numbers up are. J.C. Jackson's getting paid probably fractionally compared to what other corner. Just look at on the team alone. Stephon Gilmore's contract versus J.C. Jackson's, and J.C. Jackson's leading the entire league in picks right now.
I say this too. When you look at the Jets game, if you're the offense, if you're Cam Newton, you might be a little pissed. You're like, the defense, come on, you guys gave up 27 points. Like this, we should be in the spot. This game today, everyone played pretty good. Like the offense put up their points when they needed to. Like Jacoby's making the plays he needs to. Damian Harris is getting it down. And then on the opposite end, it's like, okay, so maybe there's a 3-and-out for the Patriots. Defense has got to hold it down. They held it down. Like, yeah, maybe the defense gives up some points. The offense gets it right back. Like, that was good that in all 3 phases of the game. And it almost came down to that Nick Folk extra point miss.
It almost did.
They could have fucked him, but he got lucky that it didn't affect him. But it's good to have all 3 phases of the game come together. Everyone literally did their job. So that makes that locker room even tighter. It makes it even better. So I'm excited. It sucked for me personally. I had to work tonight. So I watched the game. I can't wait to watch Houston. Like Houston, every game's a must win.
It should be a good game.
Every game
for Pats fans.
Win. So what I like, Watabe, is this is like the reverse year. It's like every year you start hot, 8-0, 9-0, 7-1, 7-2, 7-2, 7-2, and you're like, okay, we're coasting to the playoffs. Yeah, you lose a couple games November, December, whatever. We're still in the playoffs. This year, it's like you lost all your games in the front half. You need to win every single game going forward. So it makes these Patriots games more exciting. And even at the point where even like a game tonight or even last week, they're not guaranteed to win any game. There's no games are guaranteed to win. Should they beat Houston next week? 100% they should beat Houston. Should they beat the Jets the week before? Yes, but it was fucking close. any given Sunday, anything can happen, and that's what makes this season more exciting. The goal with Watabe is playoffs. Just get to the fucking playoffs. If you can do it based on how your season went, that's a win. As long as you get there, anything on top of that's gravy.
The division is still in reach after today's heartbreaking loss for Bills Mafia off a Hail Mary throw by Kyler Murray and those Arizona Cardinals. And I bet Mike's pretty excited about that one. I'm pretty sure he's a Cardinals fan down here in Arizona. But the Bills loss today means that the Patriots don't they gained a game on Buffalo today because of that. Like they could have been 5 games behind Buffalo today, or 4 games behind Buffalo with a win today if Buffalo had won, but they got that game back. So they're right there with the Bills and the Dolphins now and still contending for the AFC East. I feel like this is the first time we've actually had to worry about the division in probably 15 years, or since Brady went down week 1 back in 2008.
Yeah,
But the
and all
division
those teams,
is the goal right now for
they all
me.
went 11-5. So like,
Right.
the good thing is, they were just saying it earlier. Like, think about this for the Patriots. The Raiders are 6-3. The Patriots have a win against them. The Seattle Seahawks, they've been pretty iffy this year. They could have beat the Seattle Seahawks this year. The Miami Dolphins, they're starting to get it together. They look good, but you got that early week 1 win on them. You got to win against them later in the season. So, and the same thing with the Bills. You got to beat them later in the season. And then all these funky tiebreakers happen and shit like that too. Plus the Bills, I believe, still have to have their bye week. So you can still catch their ground.
Exactly.
And then it literally is any given Sunday. So when we look at the next half of the schedule, Watabe, I posted the 8 games and I said, what do you think this team's going to do? And most people said 6-2. They said 6-2 with one of those losses coming to the Ravens. Even if you said 5-3, you're putting that loss on the Ravens. I mean, anybody with the brain, except me, because I said they're going 8-0. But I said anybody with the brain said they were going to lose to the Ravens. You just got that win. So if you thought they were going 5-3, they're going 6-2. If you thought they were going 6-2, they're going to go 7-1 because you feel confident enough that they're going to win those other games that you picked already.
And they got some confidence.
You can't just say, oh, well, they beat the Ravens. We'll put that loss somewhere else. No, you said they were going to lose there. So now, if you beat the Ravens in a game like this, you should beat Houston. Arizona, the way they escaped with the victory, but Buffalo hung around. They are a beatable team, especially when you're at home. You got to play the Chargers and the Rams. You're both in LA. They should beat the Chargers. That Rams game could be an iffy game, but there you go. You can still win those games. Then you're at home. You got the Miami Dolphins. You got to travel to Miami. That's not an easy game. Never say never. You never know how it's going to go. And then you have Bills and Jets. Like it's very, very doable at the end of the stretch here. But when you look at it, I sent this in our group chat. You still have a mountain to climb. It's like the Steelers are what? They're 8-0 or 9-0. They're
9-0 now.
9-0, and then you have like 9-0 and the Chiefs. Don't forget about the Chiefs. They didn't even play this week, and just don't forget about them. So you have the Chiefs, and you have all these teams at 6-3, and now the Pats are at 4-5. So you still have some ground to catch up on a lot of these teams. So you have to hope that they're getting beat by some of these bottom feeders or getting beat by the NFC. So a lot of things still have to go their way. And before this game, Mike Felger on 98.5 The Sports Hub had this little simulator that he found from the New York Times. And he said the Patriots' probability of getting into the playoffs was 54%. 54% before going in that Ravens game.
Coin
so
flip.
I'm interested to see what it is now, and you plug everything in after this Ravens game to see how they can get there. And again, you own the tiebreaker over the Oakland Raiders, the Las Vegas Raiders. You own the tiebreaker now over the Ravens. So these are teams that are going to be, because, the Chiefs are going to win the division. The Steelers are going to win the division. So when it comes down to the wild card, these are going to be the teams that you need the tiebreaker over this year. Whereas last year and the year before that, you were losing to either the bad teams, or last year you're losing to good teams. Like it was this year, you're beating these good teams when you need to beat them. So that's, like the Niners, you lose to them, you lose to Denver. Those teams don't even matter for the rest of the season. Those are just bum ass teams now. Now they're bum ass teams. It doesn't matter. So it's good. It feels, and then if you can beat Miami again, you have that tiebreaker. So it's like it feels, even if the Bills win the fucking division, who cares? As long as you can get into that playoff spot is what matters the most. And especially with no fans in the stands, and who fucking knows what's happened in the next 2 months. No fans in the stands. I don't care if Buffalo hosts a playoff game. It doesn't matter. There's no Bills Mafia there. There's no advantage to them to be there. little short trip for New England to go up there. It would be better. I would love it more, Brendan, if this team's a wild card team and actually wins on wild card weekend
in Buffalo.
In Buffalo, and they
that would
win
be
in Buffalo.
fun.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's what you want out of this team. That's because you want that, like, how Sixers and Celtics fans will go after each other. Oh, the Sixers fans. Oh, we beat you 3-1 in the regular season. Yeah, well, we fucking like smoked you in the playoffs. Like, that's what you want. Like, that's what we want as Patriots fans this year. If we're gonna look forward to something.
Completely agree. Looking forward, like I know you've touched on it briefly, but looking at the next 7 games, the last 7 games of the season, which the stretch run for the Patriots, to try to punch their ticket to the playoffs to the like 20th straight year, something like that. Are you still confident? What's your record prediction, and where do you think the Pats, if they lose another in your mind, where do you think that loss is coming from?
If they lose another one, it's got to be so I won't say the Rams because I just think that like Belichick will outcoach McVay.
That's what I'm thinking too.
I think the Rams they're such a hot and cold team. They're weird. They're weird to dictate. I think they'd lose to Miami in Miami. If that's the game that you're going to drop, it's going to be in Miami. I know Brady struggled there. We don't have Brady this time. That's going to be a very, very interesting game. And then even the Buffalo game, it could be one of those divisional games that they lose. They are going to drop one game at some point in the next 7. But we're going back to you squeaked out that Jets game, and then you played pretty well against the Ravens. You have to hold your head up high. You got a little chemistry now. You beat Houston, and they're going to beat Houston. That's 3 in a row. Now they're feeling it, and there's no breaks in between. And you know that there's no bye week. You're not playing for a second seed. You're not playing for the first seed. You know that's already out the window. So now every single game from here on out, and there's no breaks, but that might benefit them. Over all these years, Brendan, it's always been grab a bye week. Tom Brady needs rest up on week 17, but that's Brady. I don't think Cam Newton needs rest. I think Cam Newton just needs
he just wants to show up.
They need to grind it out. I want to talk about him too showing up. I think it was like in the first or second drive when he ran with the ball. It's probably the second drive. He's a big guy.
He's lowered his shoulder.
He's not afraid to do that. And that's what I like about Cam, because we can talk about should they extend him, should they not extend him. And it's almost to the point where Belichick needs to figure out who the future quarterback is in this upcoming draft, get them, and Cam Newton is truly a bridge guy for the next year or two. You sign him on for another year or two after this. And it almost feels like you are investing your time into Cam Newton and understanding the playbook, and he's starting to build the chemistry with the players, depending on how he finishes the season. Because Cam and this team could go on a run. And if this team at least goes 9-7,
right?
I mean, that's going to be enough ground.
That's enough to make playoffs. That's enough for a normal wild card team to squeak into the playoffs every single season. Why can't it be the Patriots this year?
And it comes down to, well, if Cam Newton can go 9-7 with this team, especially with their hiccup at the beginning of the season, why not bring them back and like let's run it back another year? So
right. See, that's what I was talking about earlier. If you look at the core guys, J.C. Jackson, Cam Newton, and Jacoby Myers, if you were to have that as your core of guys next year, granted they're not gonna sell 1 million tickets, even though the past season tickets will probably sell out anyways. Those guys are getting paid pennies based on what the other guys in the league are getting paid.
And then you still have Hightower coming back, like
right.
You still have like
the veterans
possibly coming back. You're gonna have some of these veterans that are still gonna be able to come back, that they know that, hey, these rookies are playing pretty good. I can kind of play like 40%, 50% of the snaps. And it's actually better for Bill because now he'll have a really great rotation of guys in and out, that he can trust, that he's not scraping at the bottom of the barrel. Also, shout out to the offensive line. They're fully healthy again. They're there. If you saw at the beginning of the game, they had the Pro Football Focus grades across the board.
Right.
And each of their positions, none of them rank under, I believe, a 10. I think they're all in the single digits.
I think half, like 3 or 4 of them were top 5.
Yeah, and based on their position. So that offensive line looked stellar again tonight. I mean, yes, does Cam Newton get sacked here and there? It happens because this offensive line is used to a guy that was playing quarterback that would get the ball out of there within a second and a half. Cam likes to hold on. Cam likes to scramble. Cam likes to do delayed handoffs. These things happen, but again, it's great. And that's another thing. They didn't have David Andrews for a couple games. You were missing Andrews for a while. these injuries that come up. So it's great to see this team is finally getting it back together. And it was gloomy. It sucked these last 2 months, like the Patriots football, because sports are done. Like they're done. Like we had that burst of sports. Like you had hockey, you had the Sox. I mean, well, you had baseball, not the Sox.
We had baseball. There wasn't much there.
Basketball, and then football was all coming together. And then as a New England Patriots fan, you're like, dude, like this is gonna be a miserable season. Like you wanted sports for so long, and now they suck, but they're back at it. They're here.
Right. We'll move into that. Why not? This is the last Sunday where this is going to be the only sport in the news, because tomorrow we get the trade negotiations starting for the NBA. NBA season fastly approaching. They decided on a start date of December 22nd. So mark your calendars. We're just about a month away from basketball returning.
I am seeing like almost every player coming to the Celtics. I got
Everyone.
Westbrook coming to the Celtics.
James Russell.
Coming to the Celtics. like who's coming here? Like Gordon Hayward's gone.
Every single player that is a free agent will be signing with the Boston Celtics. It has been confirmed. Every player that's been available for trade will be coming to Boston. So we're probably going to have about 30 guys on the active roster. Probably send James Harden, Russell Westbrook up to Maine for a few games. Get the ticket revenue up there. It's obnoxious, but it's also one of the most fun parts of the NBA like cycle is that offseason where you start hearing stars want in or want out or want to run it back with the team they had, or like what's going on in Houston. They're contemplating blowing it up already.
Yeah, and I saw like say James Harden or Westbrook or whatever goes to the Brooklyn Nets. I'd be fucking pissed. I'd be pissed as a Celtics fan because it's just like I know it might be hard for some egos to figure it out there in Brooklyn, but I've always said that there's major media markets. Brooklyn is in New York. It's in New York City. It's a major media market. That team could be something. Like that team could figure it out and be something. And what sucks, Brendan, is just that Gordon Hayward, his injury kind of delayed things. Then like you had your Kyrie Irving like stint, and now Kemba Walker is kind of banged up. It feels like these last few years, it's like the Celtics almost have it. They're there. They get to the Eastern Conference Finals. And they're either banged up, it's just they're not fully healthy, the team's not fully together, and it feels like at some points, is this team gonna, lose it? Is this team not gonna ever get back there? And are they gonna lose everything they have? And I see that they have 3 first-round draft picks, and I'm at the point you trade. Don't fucking stock these picks.
That's
I read it. What? No, I read like, well, the Celtics at the 30th pick should pick this guy from Slovenia and then have a European guy saved at 19 years old. No, I want them to like get players now. Like I want players. I want to win now. I want to win one championship now and suck for 5 years, then try to tickle my balls for 5 years and go to 5 straight Eastern Conference Finals and not go to an NBA Finals.
I totally get that. And we've talked about it in some previous shows. Those 3 first-round picks, we don't have the roster room for them. If you were to add 3 first-round players to the Boston Celtics right now, you have two current guys that could become free agents in Enes Kanter and Gordon Hayward. Do the math. 2 or 3, it won't work. 3 guys replacing 2 guys doesn't work. It doesn't. I've tried it.
So that's what's good about this, trade stuff coming up is that the Celtics should make a splash. They got to make a splash.
There will be.
This is the time. This is the time to do it. And I think that Danny Ainge, I mean, if you're going to be Trader Danny, you have the fans behind you. Like the fans are not giving up on this team. There's still hope. It's not like they suck, but it's more of like, I think the pressure's coming soon where it's like, we got to get to a finals. Like we have to get to a finals soon. Like, cause like we can't take cause now it's like, it's always finals or bust with the Celtics team over the last couple of years. But hey, we can't be stuck in neutral going to an Eastern Conference Finals. But we also can't take a step back and like lose in the first round or the second round.
Right.
And now you're seeing, the Sixers made pretty good moves. Oh wow, they got Doc. I think Doc Rivers is a great coach. I still think he's a good coach.
Yeah.
And they made a move at GM. And it's like, hey, they still got their shit together over there. Oh wow, Brooklyn Nets. Well, they're getting Kyrie fully healthy. KD's fully healthy. Wow, they can make a splash as well too. I mean, you still got Giannis. Who knows how long he's going to last in the Bucks? This could be his last year in the Bucks. The Miami Heat, they made the finals. You got to give them some respect in the name. So now the Eastern Conference is starting to pick things up. They're starting to pick it up now. It always was one or two teams, and that was it.
Right.
It was LeBron James, whatever team, and I'm sure it was purposely done by the NBA to keep LeBron at the top, make sure the rest of the Eastern Conference sucks, put them all in the West. Now it's starting to spread out in the East. Maybe it's because LeBron's in the West and they want everyone.
That is exactly
conspiracy
why.
theory. They want everyone out of Houston. They want everybody out of. They'll blow up the Clippers if they have to. They'll say everyone leave. Everyone go to the East. Everyone go to the East. LeBron needs this. Give it to LeBron. It's weird how that's working out, but it puts pressure on Danny Ainge now. Okay, now this Eastern Conference is getting a little bit tougher. There's going to be a lot of tough teams around here. It's not going to be easy. The path to the Eastern Conference Finals ain't going to be that easy anymore. So let's make a trade. Take these 3 picks and do something with them. Don't hold them and don't draft them.
Or move up. I'm cool with moving up too.
Yes,
if you want to move up to the top 5, take a big man up there. I am cool with that. But again, we there's no room for 3 guys. There's not.
I'm a little worried. I was reading the names of like the top 30 picks, right? And I'm a little worried because there was no college basketball season.
Right.
And I think that's actually going to be very, very, I think this could be one of the worst drafts coming up. That's my personal opinion.
I have thought about that quite a bit, but after talking to some people that know college basketball quite well, I think there is sort of like a knowledge gap, because usually like you're coming off of March Madness, you start like focusing the summer, those guys are declaring for the NBA draft. You start hearing those names more and more often. Guys make big names for themselves. And during March Madness, I think the most notable one that I can remember in recent history is Dante DiVincenzo, just popping up out of nowhere and becoming a superstar, and the Bucks take him in the lottery. You didn't get that this year because there was no March Madness. So I think there are going to be some great players that do come out of this draft. Even beginning of the second round, end of the first round, we just don't know their names yet because we don't have that recognizability on them.
I'll give that to you in the sense that you could throw a dart at the board. Doesn't matter if you're pick 1 or you're pick 60. You might end up landing something. Plus you still have after the draft undrafted free agents. I will say this. I just look at it as player development is going to be tough because you don't have that March Madness. You're not going right into a summer league, and then you're not going into a season. These kids have been kind of shelved for like a while.
Right.
And you have to trust that they've been practicing on their own, playing in their own games, running whatever they have to do. And I just think that in terms of player development, sometimes when you draft these guys, you're not going to get anything right away. You're not going to get a player that's going to be an instant impact player, in my opinion. These players you're going to draft are for your Red Claws. Like they're your developmental players. That's what I'm saying. Trade. This would have been nice.
We don't want to store guys up there. We want a guy that can come off the bench or can start for the Boston Celtics tomorrow.
I know if you could trade all 3 picks and get a superstar here, and you trade away, I don't care. Just make it happen. Make it fucking happen.
But that's what is exciting about the NBA coming up really fast. There's going to be all kinds of NBA news this week. I think next week we'll have a lot to dive into, especially surrounding the Celtics and what their moves are, because we are going to have someone new on the roster, whether we like it or not, this week, as soon as Wednesday. Like I said, tomorrow is the trade day where teams can start negotiating deals with each other, even though that they've already started with, you've seen the Lakers and the Thunder doing that today, but deals can become official tomorrow, so we'll start seeing some player movement, some picks moving around maybe, and then Wednesday we got NBA draft night, and then free agency and the bonanza that is in the NBA opens up the following day. So there is going to be some fun news in the NBA, especially all throughout the week. It's like sprinkled. It's not all in one day. It's going to be spread out.
Yeah, I just like that the NBA, like you said, the off season always brings some entertainment.
Right.
So what they have to do as the NBA is they have to capitalize this entire week. Like they got to be in the headlines all week.
Right.
That's what they want to do. And I'm excited because basketball's then now around the corner, 1 month away. Like you're right there. And it does stink that you're not going to see. Is the schedule even out yet? Is there even?
It's not out yet. We don't know what they're going to.
He was telling me about how they might do, like, you're playing up in the Northeast and you'll probably stay up there most of the time, and how they're going to start doing road games and shit. The one thing that does stink is I don't see them doing any fans in the stands. Like, we're going to be kind of back into, like, not the bubble, but it's just, it's going to,
maybe at the end of the season. We don't know what the science and what the government and the politics are going to be behind it. But if we're ever going to get a vaccine this year, but if there were fans, I doubt there's any fans in any stands on opening night in the NBA. But maybe that's a possibility when we're down the line, March, April, May. June, July.
You just gotta start going to baseball games.
I want it.
We're gonna wrap it up soon. I want to go back to the Patriots tonight and something I tweeted out, something I was just thinking of. It was piss pouring out there. It was so windy. These players are gonna get sick.
Yeah, I remember you talking about that.
So they're, and it's not like, I'm not saying like people are gonna get COVID. They're gonna get the sniffles. They're gonna get the minor cold. They're gonna get a sore throat. Those are symptoms of COVID. So what's gonna happen is on Tuesday when they show up, half of them are gonna be like sniffling and shit, and then half they're gonna have to shut the facilities down until there's 3 negative COVID tests in a row. So I think it's gonna delay this week going into the Houston game. And and same thing with Baltimore. I think it's going to delay these teams. I think this is something that last year when I think it was Shaq Mason, he played with the flu against Dallas, and it was pouring out there, and he was weak. I mean, this is the time of the year, November, December, where you're starting to get these cold weather games. The flu season's here, and you're gonna get sick, especially if you're fucking standing outside for 3.5 hours in the rain. Like last year, they played Cleveland, and I went to that game. And I was drenched, and I felt like shit all week. Like, it's just going to happen.
That's
it's a
literally me
thing.
Too. Literally almost a year ago today, that Dallas game when it was pouring and 30 degrees out.
I was smart. I stayed at 6th Street in that game. I ain't going out there, but you went to the game.
That's called common sense.
It was pouring out, and you're gonna, just like when we go to games in January, and it's like 2 degrees outside, and you're standing out there, and you can be bundled.
But you're still getting cold. Your lips getting
still gonna
chapped.
get cold. Right? So I'm gonna monitor this for the next week. I'm kind of interested to see how this goes, because maybe they push it down and they sweep it under the rug and they try not to say anything. But this could be a big thing where it's like 20 players are on the COVID list this week, like, and they're only on it for a couple of days, like Big Ben who's on it for 5 days. He still played. Like, it's I don't think it's gonna really, but it could affect practices, especially when your team that's hot now and you're starting to feel excited. And we're all like, oh, wow, the Patriots might have something. And all of a sudden this week, it's like, hey, the Pats facility shut down for 5 days because of COVID. Like, that's what I don't want to run into.
Right. Hopefully the Pats stay hot and don't get cold. And it has been, that is an interesting storyline to keep an eye on. I don't think it's going to turn into anything. I think you may see 1, 2, 3 guys, but they stay warm. They stay ready on the sidelines. Even though they're going to be dripping wet when they got into the locker rooms today after the big win. I don't think you're going to see anything substantial from that. I think the only headlines you would see, I believe, would be if one of them ended up with COVID, and that would be the only thing that would shut it down. If a guy gets the flu, they're going to keep going.
The last thing we need, though, is a guy like Cam Newton to get the sniffles. Like, we don't need that right now.
You don't want to see that, because that'll be the main headline. If like Mike Reese or somebody tweets that out, like, Cam Newton, mask up, his nose was running a little bit, he's audible sniffles. It's not good.
Over the nose.
You gotta call our guy Cam and say, hey man, you gotta put the mask. Got to go over the nose for it to work. I don't know if they're teaching them the proper precautions up there yet. It is interesting. I don't think it turns into anything.
I don't know. I like to throw stuff at the wall and see what happens.
Right. To finish Celtics talk.
Okay.
We got to give a big shout out and a farewell to our guy Tommy Heinsohn. Passed away a few days ago. Worst news to get, just to, like, as a Celtics fan, or as a sports fan in general, you just kind of take it for granted, like all the legends, all the guys who have been there and done that in the past in the sport, especially a guy like Tommy, who's been around the Celtics since day one. He's a guy that was drafted with Bill Russell, not after Bill Russell. He was in the same draft class, going to the Boston Celtics as the man, the big man himself, number 6. But rest in peace to number 15, the sideline man. It's going to be weird what the Celtics do for broadcasting, because you remember they had Mike Gorman and Scal, but if Tommy's gone and Abby Chin are gone now, it's going to be a different look for Celtics broadcast, and you can't fill a guy's role the same way you can with Tommy.
That studio, the studio is going to be what's his face, dude? Kyle Draper. So Kyle Draper, but Scal will be on the roads and he'll be at the game. Well, they're gonna call everything at home. They're probably gonna call everything remotely this year, anyways. But Scal was taking over anyways. But looking at Tommy Heinsohn, he was part of all 21 NBA finals, whether it was a championship or a loss within the Celtics in some sort of capacity. Player, coach, and broadcaster, which is insane. And I was trying to figure out why did he retire? Because if he stayed around a couple more years, he would have won more championships than Bill Russell. Because he was a coach and coached, I believe, 2 championships.
2 championships as a coach, 8 as a player.
He could have got the same amount of rings as Bill Russell as a player. I don't know why he retired. I'm sure someone knows. I was trying to look into that. But I will say this: when me, GRD, and T-Guns met Tommy Heinsohn, it was last February. It was February of 2019 is when we got to meet him. We saw him. We took a picture with him, and I leaned into GRD. I'm like, this guy looks like he's dying soon. And it's not to be offensive or anything like that. But you kind of could tell over the last couple of years his age has been deteriorating. He's been deteriorating because of his age, just his health. He hasn't done the road games. He started doing home games, and he started just doing things in the studio. His time was coming. It's still sad. It's like you didn't want this to happen in 2020. It's like it's like another one there. But and it sucks too because they're gonna do. It just sucks because he should get that proper send off, like in their home opener with fans in the stands. Like it should be something that everyone comes together, and you're not gonna have that this year.
As like a farewell.
They should have that farewell. Speaking of, I just thought this in my head. Isn't Kevin Garnett's number supposed to get retired this year?
It is supposed to get retired, probably against the T-Wolves. That's the only game that would have made sense to retire.
Are they going to actually do it this year? Or are they going to?
I don't know. If I was the Celtics, I'm calling KG and I'm saying, hey, do you want to do this when there is no crowd, there is no electricity in the building, you could hear a feather fall to the ground, or do you want to wait until 2022 and have every seat filled, have fans from Minnesota cheering for you, have fans from Boston cheering for you? That's what I think is going to happen. I doubt they do it this season. I bet there's some sort of press release or something that we're going to push back this celebration so all the fans can experience it. We don't want an empty arena for that.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I still don't think his number should be retired, but I do agree that you should.
You're wrong for that.
You should wait for the fans to come in because he's in the Hall of Fame, right? Like
he was supposed to be inducted this year with Kobe Bryant and Tim Duncan, maybe.
So what are they doing with that? Are they still doing
it? I think they pushed it back a year, so I think they should follow suit.
It's like the same thing with Canton. Like they pushing things back. Like because these players do deserve that moment where everybody is there. Like that's the same thing with the Tommy Heinsohn thing. Tommy Heinsohn deserves a moment of silence and then a standing ovation and the crowd coming together and people telling their stories and holding up signs. Like you want that visual. We want that visual, and they deserve that visual. So,
and that's what's great about Tommy is he's one of those guys who's been around the team. Like every player, everyone who's been in this Celtics organization in the last 60 years has a Tommy Heinsohn story, and that is so much fun. And just hearing his outbursts on the sideline, yelling at the referees while he's calling a game, it's something you won't be able to duplicate, but it is something that will be missed and you won't be able to replace.
Yeah, if you were like a 7-year-old like that just started following the Celtics, like you'll know who Tommy Heinsohn is right away. He's like one of the first introduced to because of like who he is. So it's from 7 years old to like 80 years old. You know who this guy is and well liked, well respected by the organization, by the community, by the fans.
It is a sad day indeed, but rest in peace, 15. He's gone but not forgotten. Hopefully the Celtics do something fun for him, like throw a patch or like I know they have the black bar on the jerseys, but I just think that's not enough. Like Tommy's
doing that every year now,
right?
Like, it's like almost every year you have that. They should have a legitimate patch that says 15 on it. Like he's
Tommy deserves something like that, or even put something on the court, put something in by the broadcast because he was sitting courtside every game at home,
like an empty chair or something like that they leave open for him. Like
that could be part of the moment of silence. But any final thoughts before we wrap up here today?
Final thought is Thanksgiving is around the corner. The holidays are around the corner. These times absolutely stink. You know what I was actually thinking, Watabe? The biggest drinking day is coming up. Thanksgiving Eve.
Oh,
Everything's closed early in certain states.
right.
So I'm very interested to see how we get through the holidays. If you at home are listening and you're not feeling good and you need to talk to somebody, you can always DM me or go talk to somebody. Don't feel alone out there. The holidays in the wintertime, it kind of shutters people down. It
Yeah.
shuts people down. And especially with the pandemic going on and how we're having a civil war with this fucking election that's going to never be ending, and how sports, are just, you're not going to be able to attend games. Go out there and talk to somebody. We are going to get through this holiday season. It's going to be so different than any other holiday season we've ever been through. I am somebody personally that I work on holidays. My holidays are the Super Bowl. My holidays are the NBA Finals. Like, that's the time that I take off of work. So I've always worked holidays for people. So someone like me, it doesn't really bother me. But there are so many families that get together that have like 50 people over. They do these big gatherings. They go out to restaurants, and these are things that are not going to happen this year. And even where the CDC is trying to tell you to like socially distant and be outside and be careful with your relatives. I've got people that DM me and they talk to me about it too. They're about, can I go see my grandmother? And I can't do this and that. And we're all in the same boat. Never forget
Right.
that. You're not the only one that's dealing with this. A lot of other people are dealing with this. But if you always feel that you need to talk, reach out to somebody and talk to them, especially at this time in the holiday season.
That is a great point. Yeah, that's a very important thing, especially this year of all the years. But my final thoughts on a little happier note. Welcome back to Boston, Alex Cora. He's gonna do big things. I think it's gonna be a fun time to be a Red Sox fan. I think I spoiled it a few shows ago, but
they're already talking about him making a major splash soon. George Springer, I heard Springer. Maybe getting Springer in.
That's what see that's the good thing there. Springer knows Cora. Cora knows Springer. George Springer
stick together.
Hey, chill with that. But George Springer, UConn Husky, bring him to Boston. He'll be the next in the line of lineage of Ray Allens and Kemba Walkers to come to Boston and do great things. George Springer is that dude. I hope the Red Sox management can find a way to get it done. But if that is the case, Jackie Bradley Jr. will not be a Red Sox player anymore. But welcome back to Boston, Alex Cora. And we'll see you guys next week. 81.